In just 38 seconds, a $200,000 law degree crumbled on live television. Patel didn't expect the quiz. He thought it would be easy. Cameras captured everything. The room went silent. What did Jasmine Crockett reveal that made the FBI director nominee's constitutional knowledge collapse before 47 million viewers? At exactly 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday that would define careers, the Senate Judiciary Committee chamber buzzed with the usual pre-hearing energy. Reporters adjusted their cameras, sensing something electric in the air. Senators shuffled through briefing papers while their aides whispered last-minute strategy updates. But something felt different, tension thick enough to cut with a gavel. Patel walked in like a man who had memorized every talking point, every deflection, every legal loophole that had gotten him this far. Navy suit pressed to perfection, each crease sharp enough to cut glass. The FBI pin glinting under the harsh committee room lights like a badge of inevitable victory. Stack of prepared notes clutched in his right hand, responses crafted by the best political consultants money could buy. He sat down at the witness table with the confidence of someone who believed his nomination was a foregone conclusion, adjusting his tie one final time before what he assumed would be a victory lap. Across from him, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett sat like a professor who had caught a student cheating. She had spent weeks preparing for this moment, but not in the way Patel expected. While he had been rehearsing sound bites about fighting corruption and draining swamps, she had been digging into something far more fundamental, the Constitution he swore to defend. Her legal pad contained not complex policy questions, but the kind of basic constitutional queries that every law student should ace. She knew exactly what she was hunting for. The opening questions started predictably. Republican senators lobbed softballs about Patel's commitment to law enforcement. Democratic senators pressed on his loyalty to Trump. Standard political theater. Patel answered with the robotic precision of a man who had been media trained to within an inch of his life. Then Crockett's turn came. "Mr. Patel," she began, her voice calm but carrying an edge that made every reporter in the room lean forward. "Before we discuss your plans for the FBI, I'd like to establish your foundational knowledge of the document that governs everything we do here." Patel's eyebrows lifted slightly. This wasn't in his prep materials. "Of course, Congresswoman. I've spent my career defending the Constitution." "Excellent." Crockett smiled, but it was the kind of smile that made smart people nervous. "Then you'll have no trouble with some basic questions." She pulled out a single sheet of paper. No thick briefing books. No complicated charts. Just one page that would change everything. "Mr. Patel, can you tell me which article of the Constitution establishes the judicial branch?" The question hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Patel's confident expression flickered for just a moment, a microsecond of uncertainty that the live television cameras caught in perfect detail. His media training had prepared him for attacks on his loyalty, his qualifications, his past statements. But this was supposed to be the easy part. "Well, that would be—" He paused, his brain scrambling through law school memories that suddenly felt decades old. The pause stretched like taffy, each second an eternity. In the gallery, law students who had driven down from Georgetown exchanged incredulous glances. This was first semester constitutional law. Article 3. Everyone knew this. Even high school debate team members could answer this question. "Article 2, Patel finally said, his voice carrying just a hint of uncertainty that betrayed his crumbling confidence. The room collectively held its breath. Even the stenographer looked up from her machine. Crockett's eyebrows raised. "Article 2, Mr. Patel." "Yes, Article 2 establishes the 3 branches of government, Mr. Patel." Crockett's voice was now carrying the patience of a teacher dealing with a student who hadn't done the reading. "Article 2 establishes the executive branch, Article 3 establishes the judicial branch. Article 1 establishes the legislative branch, which is where we're sitting right now. The color drained from Patel's face like water from a broken dam. Behind him, his handler, a sharp-suited woman from the White House Personnel Office, closed her eyes and silently mouthed what appeared to be profanity. But Crockett wasn't done. Not even close. She was building a case, brick by constitutional brick. Let's try another one, Mr. Patel. Can you tell me what the Fourth Amendment protects? This time, Patel's pause was longer, more noticeable, the kind of pause that makes viral clips and destroys. Behind him, his White House handler was frantically flipping through briefing materials, looking for an escape route that didn't exist. The Fourth Amendment? He cleared his throat, buying precious seconds. The Fourth Amendment protects against self-incrimination. The silence that followed was deafening. In the press gallery, a reporter from the Washington Post was already typing furiously on her phone. Breaking: FBI nominee confuses Fourth and Fifth Amendments during confirmation hearing. Mr. Patel, Crockett said, her voice now carrying the weight of someone who had just witnessed a constitutional crisis in real time. That's the Fifth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment protects against unreasonable searches and seizures. As the man who wants to lead the FBI, the agency responsible for executing search warrants, I would think this would be fundamental knowledge. Twitter exploded like a digital volcano. Patel Constitution fail started trending within minutes. Law professors across the country were canceling classes to watch the hearing live. Harvard's Lawrence Tribe tweeted, "In 40 years of teaching constitutional law, I have never seen such fundamental ignorance from someone nominated for such a critical position." Former FBI directors were getting urgent calls from reporters. The international reaction was swift. BBC ran it as FBI nominee fails basic law quiz. Even late-night comedy shows were scrambling. Stephen Colbert's writers were crafting jokes about a man who wanted to enforce laws he didn't understand. But the moment that truly ended Kash Patel's FBI dreams came with Crockett's third question. Mr. Patel, in your previous statements, you've talked about the importance of loyalty to the president. Can you tell me what the FBI director's oath of office says about loyalty? Patel straightened up. This was more familiar territory. Absolutely. The FBI director swears loyalty to the president, who appoints them. The room erupted. Crockett didn't even try to hide her shock. Mr. Patel, that is categorically Kaisel. The FBI director, like all federal employees, swears an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Not to any individual, not to any president, to the Constitution. She leaned forward. The fact that you don't know this fundamental principle explains everything about why you're a tit for this position. The avalanche had started, and nothing could stop it now. Republican senators tried to throw lifelines. "Point of order," shouted Senator Ted Cruz. The congresswoman is clearly grandstanding, but the damage was done. Social media was on fire. Constitutional ignorance was trending alongside. Patel fails and Crockett destroyed. News networks were cutting into regular programming. Even Fox News couldn't spin this away. CNN's legal analyst, Jeffrey Toobin, was live within the hour. "I've covered confirmation hearings for 30 years. I have never seen a nominee demonstrate such fundamental ignorance of basic constitutional law." MSNBC ran a split screen showing Patel's confused face next to a graphic listing the Bill of Rights. The chyron read, "FBI nominee fails Constitution." The White House Situation Room became a crisis management war room. How did this get past vetting? Chief of Staff Susie Wiles asked. Nobody had an answer. Phone calls flooded in from Republican senators. "I can't defend someone who doesn't know the difference between the Fourth and Fifth Amendments," Senator Lindsey Graham reportedly told a White House liaison. Meanwhile, in the committee room, what started as routine had become must-see television. Patel's body language told the story, shoulders slumped, confident smile gone, knuckles white gripping the witness table. Senator Dick Durbin, the committee's ranking Democrat, seized the moment. Mr. Patel, I have to ask, if you don't know these basic constitutional principles, how can the American people trust you to protect their constitutional rights as FBI director? The question hung in the air like an accusation. Patel's attempted answer, a rambling defense of his legal education and government service, only made things worse. Legal analysts would later describe it as watching someone dig their own professional grave on live television. Within 48 hours, 3 Republican senators had publicly withdrawn their support. Susan Collins of Maine released a statement. While I respect Mr. Patel's service, the FBI director must have an unshakable understanding of constitutional law. John Cornyn of Texas was more blunt. Constitutional literacy isn't negotiable for law enforcement leadership. But the political damage was spreading faster than anticipated. The American Bar Association issued an extraordinary statement. Basic constitutional knowledge is fundamental for any position in law enforcement leadership. Law school deans began calling for constitutional competency tests for senior nominees. Pace University Law School's dean issued a carefully worded statement. We will be conducting a comprehensive review of our constitutional law curriculum to address any gaps. It was diplomatic language for, we're mortified and implementing emergency reforms. Late-night television had a field day. Stephen Colbert quipped, we've found the one person who makes me feel overqualified to run the FBI. The international reaction was brutal. BBC, FBI nominee fails basic law quiz. Even diplomatic Canadian media couldn't resist. FBI candidates' constitutional knowledge questioned. Social media became a constitutional classroom. High school civics teachers reported unprecedented student engagement. My kids are asking if they're more qualified than the FBI nominee, posted a viral tweet from Ohio. Legal scholars seized the teaching moment. The ripple effects extended into legal education. 17 law schools announced enhanced constitutional literacy requirements within a month. Most importantly, the moment sparked a national conversation about qualifications versus loyalty in government appointments. Editorial boards agreed constitutional knowledge shouldn't be optional for constitutional officers. The final nail came from retired FBI Director William Webster, appointed by Reagan, who issued a rare public statement: the FBI director serves the Constitution, not any individual. Patel's fundamental misunderstanding of this principle, combined with his apparent unfamiliarity with basic constitutional provisions, disqualifies him from consideration. When a Reagan appointee publicly destroys a Republican nominee, even the most loyal senators start looking for exits. Patel's nomination was officially withdrawn the following Friday in a terse one-sentence White House statement. No ceremony, no thanks for his service, just a quiet acknowledgement that the Emperor of constitutional law had no constitutional clothes. The aftermath transformed how America thinks about government qualifications. The Patel Standard became shorthand for minimum constitutional knowledge expected of senior officials. Law schools use the hearing in ethics courses, political science professors in separation of powers lectures. Jasmine Crockett became an overnight hero to constitutional scholars, civil libertarians, and anyone who believed government officials should actually understand the government they serve. Her 3 questions, lasting less than 5 minutes total, had exposed what months of traditional opposition research couldn't: that the man chosen to lead America's premier law enforcement agency didn't understand the basic legal principles that govern American democracy. The viral moment spawned countless memes, law school exam questions, and a new term in political circles, getting Crocketed, defined as being destroyed by basic knowledge you should have mastered years ago. Urban Dictionary's definition went viral. When someone's career ends because they couldn't answer questions a high school civics student could handle. Constitutional law professors began using the hearing as a teaching tool. The Patel moment, as it became known in academic circles, demonstrated the importance of actual knowledge versus political loyalty. Harvard's constitutional law exam that spring included a question analyzing constitutional knowledge requirements for law enforcement leadership. Sometimes the most powerful weapon in Washington isn't a classified memo or a smoking gun, email. Sometimes it's just asking someone to demonstrate they know what they're talking about. What happens when ambition meets preparation in a Senate hearing room? If you're Kash Patel, you learn that a law degree means nothing if you don't understand the law. If this constitutional education opened your eyes, don't just watch. Subscribe to Truth and Accountability, where constitutional knowledge meets political reality. Hit that notification bell, because the next nominee might surprise you even more. What would you have asked Kash Patel? Drop your constitutional questions in the comments below.